We'll start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have minutes from the March 20th meeting. Anybody have any amendments or changes?
No.
Sir. I'll move that we approve as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We have the payroll. Any changes there?
None.
I'll move that we approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
I have your answers if you want those.
That's what I was gonna ask. I was gonna look those up.
Adult Protective Services,
Is Davies County?
yes,
What would we pay Davies?
got to post them.
Okay.
The other one's the sheriff pension that county's match. We pay it every April. We
$302,000.
pay it
How often is that?
every April.
It's a lot of money.
Well, we don't pay that exact amount, it's whatever they actuary and then we budget for.
Okay.
It's less next year, I believe. And the final one is a probation is your different payment. April payment.
Okay.
And that's what everyone treating tells us for the next year, and that's what we budget.
So it's a situation where we do the best we can to pre-plan what we're putting into that pension, and then if we're wrong, we have to make our plan later.
It depends on who's drawing, how many you add, blah, 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 blah.
We have the claims against the county. Anybody have any questions or changes on those? I'll move that we approve those.
Second.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Highway Supervisor report.
Good morning.
Who
I have a hard time with it too, with my nose,
are these?
new attorney,
That's the one where, okay.
he just quit.
She quit.
No, this one did.
Peyton,
He just quit last week,
who's that?
probation officer.
So he was new and then quit? Like, sir? Okay. Daniel Wilkinson?
New attorney.
Okay. So yeah, these are some of the names that I saw that had paid a decent amount of pay. There were two other
So that was a pay.
for.
This one.
All right. Morning, Steve.
Good morning. All right. Go ahead. Okay, first item, office water damage. The construction in the office area is complete. Construction cleanup is going on right now with a little bit of trim work that we're doing on some of the door frames and stuff, so. We're gonna be moving files and furniture, and however, the desks won't be here probably until later in the week, so we're hoping that maybe by the end of this week, we can have everything moved in and then start demolition on the break room and get that all ready to go, so. After that, I think Shereen's gonna be back to help us there, so that should go pretty fast. I mean, we got stud walls all the way around there, so it's just a matter of some insulation and drywall and should be it there. We also, I talked with Chubb Insurance. They're issuing an initial check in the amount of $66,503.60. That does take into account the deductible that's already met. So we'll be tracking continued expenses and filings as time goes. Like I said, it's my hope that we could be moved out of the break room and into the office here soon. Solar Sources update. I spoke with Michael Costello last week, looking for an update. The DNR is still having discussions with the bankruptcy attorneys regarding some reclamation concerns. They have employed some surveyors that are identifying the high water mark or the ordinary water mark in the pit itself. So there's some work going on there, as well as I think they're staking out some property lines just to get everything lined out there. So they have had some discussions with certain landowners where the lakes will remain as far as reclamation of what gets done there. So some of this is proceeding, but until we know that the DNR has approved that reclamation plan, we won't be setting up a meeting until then. So we have a better idea what we're dealing with. So when that happens, we'll let you know. Okay. Du Bois dumpster side, I spoke with Greg here earlier and just tried to get an update.
I followed up with the contact in the attorney's office, and this morning, as Steve was talking to me, got an email. I've been advised that the last signature page of the deed was sent to my office in Ferdinand via UPS, hopefully to arrive today. So,
That it can be recorded and that's ours? Is that the
We were
point we're
just
at?
talking about that last week.
yeah, that's the short version. A couple steps involved, but yes, then it will become ours.
Okay, next item, paving list for 2023. Higher than expected paving costs have caused us to make a few small modifications to the plan that we had discussed earlier. I've got the updated plan that I've handed out to you. The Community Crossings Project 2022-2 involving the Portersville Road and the town is funded. We'll submit the paving of 1100 South from the town of Ferdinand to US 231 and Kellerville Road from Cathy Lane to 300 North on the Community Crossings Grant 2023-1 later this year. Our current estimates show the project cost to be around $1,313,069. Using that estimate, our match would be around $328,267. The updated paving plan just handed to you assumes the paving of a good portion of Ferdinand Road East using our funds. However, if the council can help us out there to ask if we could have their help for the Community Crossings Grant of 2023-1, we can still go ahead and pay Ferdinand East. But if we're not able to get that done, we'll likely have to pull the Ferdinand Road East project in order to have the funds to get that match. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
So where would the money usually come from?
It would come from the state, that Senate bill money, which is about gone now, I believe, in its handy. Senate bill
The
money.
match?
Senate bill money's maxed out, was cashed out.
Huh.
Senate bill's
I
money,
think we just have a teeny
yes,
tiny
but that's what's coming, Portersville's being paid out of, the rest, Senate bill's Portersville will clean out the rest of the Senate bill and we're paid the rest of it.
Mhm. Yeah.
So if we would not get help from the council for 23-1, it would come on MPH, and that's why Ferdinand Road East would pull.
So, any questions on that?
I don't think I have enough knowledge of where they pull the money from, so it depends.
Okay.
I think we have just a teeny tiny bit in there that
Yeah.
I missed.
So what's the Senate bill money?
But
What's
it's not-
that?
We were given that back when this first started.
Yeah.
And then
It was a
it
refund of,
it was money put in there and it had to be used for like community crossings matches.
Well, that time when they were holding a
Yeah.
big surplus.
It
when
was
they-
surplus.
Okay, so they gave us a chunk, we've used that up. We have more projects planned than we have money, and you're wanting to ask them for more money.
That's the council for money, yeah.
Yeah, and suggestions from Edit, but you don't necessarily care where it comes from. Whatever they find is best.
yeah, if they can help us out with that, then we can continue with the Ferdinand East project. And I believe what we've done, in my earlier plan, we had planned on paving the entire thing from the town of Ferdinand down to the Spencer County line. but the way things are standing right now, we're gonna pave about 1.6 miles of that road, so there'll be a stretch that we won't be able to pave because of the costs, and that's if the council helps us, okay? Because then we can get 1100 South paved as well, so.
It's cheaper to do it all at once and have them come back and do the other half. So, I mean, I'm fine with letting him move forward and asking for the funds. If the funds aren't there, then that's fine too. Anybody else have any problem with that?
Problem.
Thanks, Steve.
Okay. With that, going to be asking for additional appropriations as we get closer to the paving season. We have a better idea of what we're looking at. In order to fund our line items for this year's paving season, in the MVH fund, we'll need to ask for an additional appropriation of $225,000 from MVH to put in the bituminous line item. And in the MVH paving projects, we're going to be adding $1.375 million to fund paving projects there. In local road and street, we're looking at an additional appropriation of $425,000 in our bituminous line item, and paving projects will be needing $230,000. I'd also like to appropriate $18,000 from the solid waste line, or from the solid waste fund, to go to the dumpster sites line item, which will fund the chip seal paving of the remainder of the Ireland dumpster site, and then the paving of the Huntingburg and the Ferdinand dumpster sites as well. That's what our plan is for this year.
Seems like the chip seals worked well at Jasper.
Mhm.
And it's not as dusty or messy, and we had any problem with runoff with the water flows or anything?
Not really, not really. And I think it'll, in the long run, help us as well with snows, because if we're in there with the plows, we're pushing gravel up, and it just makes a lot of cleanup in the spring. This way, we're not creating gravel piles that are still remaining after the snow melts off. So
Yeah, any comment from the customers out there?
they like it.
I would assume that it's a lot nicer
Yeah.
for them.
Yeah, it keeps them out of the, days like this, it's not muddied, or they're not tracking the stone and everything. Keeps the dust down, so it'll be nice.
I support everything in that additional appropriation request. Any comments or concerns on that from anyone?
No, sir.
Okay.
And the last item, it's time again to spray roadsides for vegetation control. I've got the money in my budget for 2 part-time people to spray this summer. And we are beginning this week as Poison Hemlock is off to a nice healthy start. So we've got one guy in. We're working on schools again to see if we can get some people from like the FFAs or something like that to come in and help with that. So we get some good response there. Outside of that, that's all I've got. Everybody's got any questions?
When you spray, is it like selective spray, or you spray like the whole first 3 feet of right away, or what? How do you
Target spray.
So you just look for a certain plant and try to.
Yeah.
And for the weed board, we did put that flyer in again this year, right? Or a different kind of flyer with the tax bill.
Yes. Yeah.
Did tax bills go out last week?
April 10th.
That was good.
So should be in there. So. All right.
Thank you.
Steve, do you have anything on your maintenance plan that you want to point out, or anything on here? Is there anything that you want to address at all on there?
I don't think so, unless you have some
Okay.
questions on
No,
it.
I didn't know if there was something in particular that you wanted to talk to us about. Okay, no, that's fine.
We have through the course of the year added a few
Okay.
areas in the repair and maintenance
Mhm.
portions that had to be dug up or ripped. So that affected us a little bit.
Okay.
Paving prices kind of went up,
Of course.
but
Okay,
yeah, these here, these are the roads that we're looking at for the rejuvenator to go down. These are gonna be our chip seal overlays that we're planning on this year. Obviously, these are the patches.
okay.
this is the hot mix.
Okay, all right, that's good. I didn't know if there was one particular one you needed. Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Steve. Good morning, sir.
Okay. I don't have much on my list here. So Duff Solar Park, still trying to go through the road disagreement. I'm not a attorney by any stretch of the imagination, so it's taking me a minute. I've been kind of playing on my plate, so I will get on it. Hopefully by the next meeting I'll have something to go with it.
So with that, you're just trying to work out what'll work for you, and they're working out what'll work for them, but we're not signing anything because I would say that's part of our negotiation with the council and with us. Sounds good.
Correct.
On that same, actually, while we're talking about stuff, I just had this for a miscellaneous thing. I had a company called Apex Clean Energy call me. They are in the early stages of an additional solar project. This is the third one that I know
Okay.
of. There may be a fourth, but I think there's at least these.
This three for sure. That's the
There's
third
the
one.
airport area,
Yeah.
there's this
Okay.
one you just mentioned, and then this one would be in Boone Township. Next to the east of the Shamrock Mine. I guess there's that, this is where, I said, why don't you put them in the mine?
Yeah, we got all kinds of ground right now.
We got a lot of empty space.
Yes, you're exactly right.
I said, well, we're looking at that. I was being kind of joking and kind of serious at the same time. Why don't they take that property over and do something with it? But it's not gonna be good for farming the way it is.
Yep.
So, anyway, I'm gonna have a meeting with them on, I don't remember if it's 19th or 20th of this month, but I'm meeting with them to discuss that. So there is another, I don't know why this is becoming such a thing.
I don't,
Two Boys County. Just wanted to share that before I forgot.
Okay.
Do you know of any more than those three? I can't think of another one.
Those are the ones I know of right now. And the one at the airport, I know very, very little about. I just heard rumors, all I heard, so.
Okay. Safe Streets for All. So I've got a boilerplate grant agreement that I've got, and I've actually got a meeting set up on April 14th with Federal Highway, the Indiana rep for Federal Highway. Hopefully he can explain a lot more to me. I missed the online course they had. I had another meeting, so it's double booked. He sent me the recording of the meeting, so I'm going to listen to that review, and then I'll have a meeting with him. Hopefully get everything going on that. I don't think they want to keep it going, but it's not like we got to hit these dates, so we're moving forward, but it's not a big rush yet. So Division Road, Bridge 14, water's not been our friend. Let's put it mildly. So hopefully after the certain date that the lake will start closing the dam up, hopefully the water will drop, we can get back in there. And then paving projects. So the first meeting in May 1st, I have 6 projects to bid that day. Just an FYI. I've got them all set up and ready to go, but we'll see 6 projects coming in on the May 1st meeting. So, like I said, I don't have much on any agreements or anything yet, so.
All right, thank you. I'll go ahead with one of my miscellaneous items. We have 8 minutes until our next person will be here. So I had a meeting last week with Du Bois REC, PSC, Orange County Fiber. Mr. Kleesner and myself, we met to get an update on where we are with our Make Ready project for our broadband rollout in the whole county. And things are going very well. I think if you live in the rural areas, you'll see that there's people out there and they're changing out poles everywhere. the way it's been working is they've surveyed the county. I think they said they had 36,000 polls in the county. So it's quite a few polls to survey and to look at. What they'll do is they'll go through down a given county road or street and find the ones that are either not tall enough or they're too old and they're weak. Because they get some push and pull on them, so they don't want them to fall or break, because that'll just mess up service. But long story short, they gave me this map. I wanted to share this with the board, and it kind of shows where things are and where they're going to be, I guess. So everything on here that is in this color, I guess it's pink. Again, I don't have very good color sense. I think it's a pink. All of this is new stuff that Orange County Fiber has already put in. So these are where the lines are. That doesn't necessarily mean that a given person on that is able to sign up just yet, but it means that they're getting really close.
I have spoke to them, Orange County Fiber, about our farm.
Okay. Yeah. So what'll end, and then this color, yellow, I guess, a yellowish. These are ones that they're working on currently, and so green is Spectrum, and there are other places on this map that are already served by somebody. Like you don't see Jasper and Huntingburg filled in because those are already saturated. But pretty much everything is on path. People are getting signed up. I think they said they're having about Orange County. I think said they're having about 60% of the homes are signing up that are able to. PSC was saying they're having a take-up rate of about 29%. Some of that would be if a person said, and I only use it for email, or I'm already using just my phone anyway, I don't really need it. Some people aren't going to have a need for it, but the goal was to get there to people that do need it, can have it. So I was pretty excited with how this is going. I know I've heard several people say that they've signed up and they've got great service, that they don't have to wait to connect, and they don't have as many drops. They come to my house and ask if I want to sign up, so I guess I'll get signed up this summer.
Mhm.
Councilman Fleesner got signed up a couple weeks ago in his neighborhood.
They get line run to my
And
house
you've got
already.
a line run to your house, so everywhere around the community, people are getting that opportunity.
Very nice.
So one of the problems that they had was they were having PSE and we're having some problems with easements. In other words, we need to run this line through your property to get over there. So people are like, what's in it for me? Why would I let you do that? So they had a little bit of struggle with that, but I think they found a way to get through that. They're making their way. The other thing that I'm hoping, once this is done, let's say that 95% of people have the connection. The state does have a fund for people that still aren't connected, even after all this work, after all this money spent in PSC and Orange County Fiber Spectrum. All of these people are bidding on these jobs, these last one or two people that haven't gotten it. So in January, if you say, hey, I got left behind again, I really feel like I'm getting the raw end of the deal here, then that would be an option for those people that they can still do that. And PSC and Orange County are going out within whatever required timeframes are and getting those people hooked up too. So I would think that we're going to be just about saturated, a year from now, for everybody that would want it. Now check my notes, see if there's anything else that I wanted to share. And that program that I just mentioned is called the Indiana Connectivity Program, I believe. Locations that currently lack service or have actual broadband speeds of less than 25.3. Yeah, so that started last September, so like myself, I started signing up for it just to see, and they'll tell you if, it's already coming or not.
Mhm.
If federal or state money has already been awarded to come to your house, it will tell you. So if you're not sure and you want to give it a try, it doesn't hurt anything to try. Go to the website and do that.
Orange County is free hookups for a period of time too.
Right, part of our negotiation with
For
them was,
a period.
we'll put this money in for the first year, people get hooked up for free, after that you can charge them whatever you want. Because we didn't want that to be a barrier that I'm 100 yards off the road, it's gonna cost me $500. So they get those. So currently, I think we had, Nick, do you remember 5,700 homes we were supposed to pass or something like that, locations? And so far, Orange County has done 3,939, that's in Orange County as far as, so that's pretty good. Pretty good percentage, and like I said, 60% of people are taking new service. Any questions on that?
No.
So what I'll do is I'll read this over here, and if anybody contacts us after the meeting and they say, where are they at in my neighborhood? We can look at this and see who's supposed to be serving them, or.
Eventually, can we put that into our file?
Sure. Or you can put it with your file now if you like. Then people
Keeping
just
all
come.
that together.
How about this? You want this other in my notes on it?
Whatever works. We'll just stick it all together.
And then if anybody in the public wants to come and say because I mean, we had a $2.5 million investment from the county. I want the public to know that that money is being well spent. And so far, I've not heard anybody complain that, oh, I've got more internet options.
No problem, not.
It is neat, they come and do an area, they lay new poles that they need, they lay them in the ditch, and then a day or two later, somebody else comes and digs the hole, puts it in, and reconnects the line. They're pretty efficient. They've already changed hundreds of them, and they know what they're doing. Has the highway department had any issue with any of that work?
No, I think they've all done a good job communicating some issues that they've had, and we've worked with them. I think they had put some new poles up along the north end of Jasper Du Bois Road where there weren't any existing poles. I think we've done that in several locations to help get it out there. So they're working real well with us.
Has anybody on the board had any feedback from people? That's what I told them too. I said, when we met with the PSC in Orange County and things, I said, I haven't had anybody really saying, hey, great job, or hey, this is terrible.
Never heard of
But I do think it's working from what I've seen. I know we'll talk about this when Stuart comes in for 911 personnel at 8:45, but I'll go ahead and start it now. I did send you both an email that I was, we'll talk about it. Mr. Beeler is in the house.
I have.
Yes, sir.
Morning,
Morning.
Phil Beeler, Grossman Land Surveying and Engineering. One quick thing. This was the last one I presented. You got 7 out of 8, or 6 out of 7 signs. This one here is, you missed one signature on that.
Okay.
He hasn't been in to sign this one yet, so if you could just sign that.
Oh, me, you?
Okay. It's our first week.
Yeah. Okay, so here, the first one I'll present is Brad and Sarah Bobble. This is out on the, in the jurisdictional limits of the city of Jasper, where Meridian Road turns to 190 North. Their son Jacob is going to build a house back on the north part of this property. So we're doing a 1-lot plat, approximately 16 acres. And then along with that, County Road 190 North is a county road. So we were here for the dedication of that right of way is what we would be addressing here. Just a
City of
little,
Jasper allows for one lot subdivision?
they do, yeah, they do. They used, the new ordinance does, the old ordinance did not. They would have to do 2-lot subdivision, but in this case, we've got 15.5 acres, 1 lot gonna build back on the north side. And we've got a little wedge down there where we took the center line of the county road and offset it, and then all that part that's within our subdivision is being dedicated as public right of way.
So that's a county road there.
Yep.
No.
This
This is this
You know where
is
he
the
lives?
county road.
Okay,
He lives up here.
Sultan Road.
Sultan Road. This
I
is,
got you. I got you.
that's basically the existing driveway with some easements back
Okay,
through
I
the
know where
property.
we're at now.
Right down, when you come down through that low of the green for the 14th hole, so golf course.
Yeah, when I was looking at this, I wasn't sure if these were 3 lots or how this was at first.
Just a,
One big lot.
just a single lot. Most of this property is in floodplain. So they're building back on the very north side of it out of the flood.
Brent, any comments?
Nope.
Anyone on the board have any comments?
Looks good to me.
I'll move that we accept the easement,
One second.
Right away.
right away,
County road right away, Dave.
county road right away. Anybody have any comments or concerns? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
I saw that too. I was with
Do you
you. I
need
thought,
this
you can't go down there. It's underwater. They don't think they're gonna have a problem accessing the property at any time?
I have seen it where that driveway, there's water on that driveway. Now, whether or not you would drive through that water on that driveway,
It's a personal choice.
That's right.
There you go. There's a second one, acceptance of a right of way as well.
correct, same scenario. You want me to just wait till they're done signing?
No, right. Okay.
So that, our county, so now I just need to get him back in. It's not good enough.
I want to open and one of the pops, be careful when I tie it together.
If you notice something, then you can let me know.
I have
Hey,
another
we're
one.
sitting there like, what, last week?
I don't have another one. Well, maybe I'll pull it.
Let's go, Brad.
It's going. If you can stop the rain for about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Wait till July.
I know, we'll be begging for July, it's September.
Brent, where's the city?
We'll start the next one.
Yeah, we were. I would have never thought.
So the city has deeds.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, they have a list of names that was prior. So they deducted us in kind of, that's why that's on, say, it's right there. Yeah, it's the city's, and ours. Ours, exactly. Just-
So they have everything on both sides of cobblestone.
Yeah, they're on the south side, and then.
We looked at it, I had somebody ask me the other day about sewer, but they was living in the area on Sheet Road. We didn't have city sewer. Unless we're right here. Might be one of those.
Is this one getting subdivided any further, or is this just gonna be one lot?
It's 2 lots, actually.
Okay, I thought that's what I remember from your email. So where are the lots?
Yeah, I'll,
So this is where it is now, okay.
You got a band around your wrist.
okay, and then the second item that we had today was Thad and Amy Leinbach. They own this piece of property that is on the north side of Cedar Road, just to the west of St. Charles. So this is actually not in the city limits of Jasper, so Cedar Road there is actually a county road, which is why we're here. The subdivision to the south of that is Cricket Creek, No, I think is what it's called. When they did that, they dedicated, the city dedicated up to basically the center line of Sheeter Road. They didn't have to dedicate the whole Sheeter Road. So to the south, there is dedicated right of way already. To the north, there is not. So the plan is for Thad and Amy. There's an existing home on this lot down in the southeast corner. They're going to keep one lot with that. And then they're going to, they've removed all those buildings back there to the north, and they're going to build a home back on the north side of that piece of property. Jurisdictional limits of the city of Jasper, so we've coordinated with the city as far as that goes, but need to be in front of you for acceptance and dedication of right of way for Sheeter Road. 2 lots, they're going to keep the home, the existing home, like I said, and then they've got a second bigger lot back behind there. So, and we dedicated, we typically,
That's the existing home.
So they've
gotten rid of all those. Well, maybe not all, there may be one small building that's still there.
They got rid of a bunch of them.
But, so, and we did dedicate, when they did Crooked Creek Knoll, they did a 35-foot right of way. We typically do 30 on a county road. But if you look at the classification for Sheeter Road to the east, where it's a city street, that's classified as a minor conductor, which has a 70-foot right of way as opposed to a 60. So on the plat, we dedicated a 35-foot street as opposed to a 30-foot street.
So this is county and not city.
Well, it's city jurisdictional.
Yeah, it's in the 2 mile.
Oh, okay.
It's not in the city limits.
Okay.
I think a lot of people think it is. Yeah.
Actually, okay.
Yes, these lots here are actually county lots, but it's in the 2 mile jurisdiction.
Jurisdiction,
But
okay. that
Sheeter
makes
Road
sense.
there is in the county.
I never.
Brad,
Thought that.
you'll be okay with the road, or are they gonna use the same thing as Sheeter, that gravel to driveway? Or are they gonna be a new road we need to worry about?
Yeah, my understanding is that they're going to use that existing driveway there.
That was fine.
And they'll own both lots, so they don't.
So if they sell it to somebody else, they may have to add anything?
Correct. My inclination would be at some point, they would probably tear that house down and just other that lot for future use for kids or whatever.
Never paid attention, I don't even compare.
I'll move that we approve the right of way,
You don't think about it, I
acceptance
mean,
and dedication.
but I just never thought of that.
I had to ask whether it was a county road or a city
Wow.
street, so.
I never thought that.
I knew at some point it became, I just didn't realize it
I
was
didn't
that soon.
that close.
Yeah.
All right, we have a first and second on the acceptance dedication. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Have a good day. Stay dry.
Been dedicated and we accept it. Right? We accept the dedication.
Electric convoys.
I drove out there and they were already moved over the hill. And I was like,
Well, and I mentioned the water, so the water was, when I drove through the water, it was like, they may have been not doing it a little different just because they figured that well, it should be coming from. But
except Phil's not doing that. No, seriously though, we got one, I think on the Pine Ridge Road, they did the same thing. They were sitting on the crest of the hill. For them, it's good because they can see both things, but I was coming over and one guy was started waving me down because he had just sent a guy. And I was like, okay, you gotta do a better job. That was not, that was. And then lines. And I couldn't tell which way to go.
Thank you.
So I pulled out, and it was really smooth. Until I could see the guy. And he's like,
This is fun.
okay. But I was in the middle, right?
Greg, how are you today?
Good, Bill, yourself?
Photograph go on.
That email you sent me, Greg, on this morning.
Going slow.
So it'd be okay if I did, but not if I was a judge.
That's my memory of it.
Yeah, okay. That's kind of what I didn't think it'd be an issue either. I've seen other people have done it.
Well, I got a few more spots.
Neither of you got any updates on the Dev House contract? Well, I was working on it, but it was so last time we had a problem with math didn't add up. They said 6 beds and so much money and it didn't add anyway. My friend did that. I pointed it out and they said they had somebody else in the written. I guess it's still in one row. It's going back and forth. I was hoping we would have it today, but it doesn't look like we have it at this point. So maybe it'll be next week. I don't know if that matters a whole lot. They're probably gonna accept our people and as long as they get paid for it, sometimes it's sure they probably come out.
How many people do they have full staff?
But staff,
Full-time staff, people bringing, is there someone there around the clock that's considered a full-time staff?
they do. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that they do because in the men's recovery house, when they do that, they're running. I do think they're.
Why would not be?
For one, they can afford it. If the home only fits, say 6 people, 5 men maybe, there's no way that they can charge. And they would have to charge too much that nobody could afford to have somebody that's 24 hours a day.
How many beds do they find for them?
I think about 5 or 6 men. It's just a residence, just a home. I mean, it's.
Have they found resources? They have, okay, the last time I heard they did.
It's one road back from the museum. If you went out the museum's back door, that's your, so the city would approve that use. Okay, let's try our next agenda item, 911 personnel. Mr. Wilson.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So, starting with personnel, I sent information out a couple of weeks ago regarding our staffing situation and the current kind of crisis that we're in and making a plan, staffing plan, presentation. Chad and I had further discussion since then and since our advisory board meeting, and that other discussion leads me to request to hire an additional staff member or get an additional staff member approved from our current number of 15 to put us to a total staff of 16. With the hopes that we can fill that shift supervisor role at some point this year. Operationally, we are not ready to fill that role. We have to get a person in the door. We need to get some employees trained that are in training. We also have an additional, since the email information, we've had another resignation. We have an employee that's leaving us to go back to different employment. She was traveling pretty far and the drive, coupled with the 12-hour shift, just didn't work for her. So she's leaving us. So we're gonna have another new hire. So we're gonna run a process starting today. We'll start advertising and what I'm requesting is for an additional position to be approved. So we could hire 2 with the same process, hopefully, and work towards getting the role of shift supervisor filled when we can handle it operationally. I don't have a time frame. There's too many variables. I would hope by late summer timeframe we would be able to fill that role, but I wouldn't make any promises on it. I just need to get the person in the door, get them started with training. I have Scott Ebel here from our 911 advisory board here in support of everything that we've been working on. Scott and I worked on this plan, the staff increase plan, started back in January. He is a 33-year member of our advisory board, and certainly he's a good voice and a good go-to person for me and I think for any of your questions as well. He's a lifelong firefighter and responder for first responders, so I definitely appreciate his guidance and his advice.
There's no easy way to do all this, but we're charging forward and trying to stay positive and hoping we'll get out of this staffing problem. I think our plan is the best step. Nothing's foolproof. It's the best thing we can try. If this doesn't work, we'll try it another way, and we're going to keep working at it. I'll have to take any questions if anybody has any questions.
So I'll give you my 2 cents worth. At our advisory board meeting, we brought this plan up, we discussed it, everyone at the advisory board meetings, and we agreed that it's a plan that is worthy of moving forward for further consideration by the commissioners, and so that's why he's here today. Since that meeting, I've been thinking about some of the things that he said, and at the advisory board meeting, I said, are you wanting to do this immediately, or are you wanting to put this in for the next year's budget? And he said, now we can limp along, and we'll do the best we can, and we'll put this in next year's budget. And after the meeting, I'm like, man, that's just not to me, it didn't sound like an ideal way of moving forward. And I know that the council and the commissioners, we don't like adding positions mid-year. It's just not ideal. It's better to have it in a budget, have a plan, and do things a little more orderly. But as we were talking about, or as I was thinking about this, I thought it might be a good idea to start getting one person, an additional person now, rehire the person we're losing and get another person during the same time frame. If we, similar to what I'll be bringing up about the sheriff later, if you're already interviewing and you're going to need the additional staff, if you get 2 or 3 good people right away, you might as well try to hold on to them at that time. Maybe we do interviews and we get one good person and this is just a position that we can fill later. But if we find the qualified good people immediately, we should get them in there because the need is there now. So that's where originally I think Mr. Wilson was going to put in his budget, and I thought there's a need for it immediately. So that's why I would suggest that we see if the council can find funding for an additional position immediately. Then he can do, Mr. Wilson can do as he wishes for his budget.
Along those lines too, that we had always, when we ran a hiring process, we always tried to retain candidates that were our second choice or third choice or fourth choice. And we do lose about 50% of those from my experience in running the hiring processes for the last 2 years. Is about half of those, when you go back to them later on and offer them a job, they're no longer interested in coming to work for us. You know, their life situation has changed, or maybe just upon kind of further review, which those I'm okay with, but we are missing out on candidates. Every process. We had a very good candidate from the last process who we missed out on an opportunity to have her work because she wasn't our first choice. I stand by our first choice, but it's unfortunate to lose a candidate. So definitely for those reasons. And then, you know what, if we don't have anybody to fill that role, then we'll try again. I'm not going to fill the role regular telecommunicator trainee or shift supervisor until we're ready and we have the right person. I want you to have confidence in our leadership team's decision making for these processes, the panel that sits in on the interview. These are all pretty well thought out decisions. I feel like they're well vetted, and I think it is the best thing for the center and best thing for the county.
Any comments, Commissioner Hostetter?
I think that sounds like a fine plan.
Commissioner Stefan?
Not breaking.
So at this point, I'll make a motion that we create a additional telecommunicator position for the 911 center, pending council being able to fund that and going through the process of appropriate advertising.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, the motion carries.
Wage classifications will be, what are they? I'm trying to look.
CPOLE
CPOL 3,
3, I think is our entry.
communication officer.
Yeah.
I guess it'd be for the entry level, then
Yeah.
move up.
We'll talk about, I think what I should do is, if we end up operationally able to move a person to an additional shift supervisor role, I'll do a separate presentation to you. And I believe budget-wise, I would be fine anyway. I would have enough cushion throughout the year to make up the shortage, so we can still do that on one appropriation for one employee entry level. I think we have a That's a pretty solid plan. The increased wages is not significant, and we would have to find it for half of the year. Unfortunately, we have a ton of unspent wages because we have trainees who are paid less, and we have so many trainees, there's money left over, so.
So ideally, we'd have wonderful, full staff with a lot of
That'd be
experience.
great.
And we would promote one of those people to a shift
Yep.
supervisor, we'd move in a new person.
Yep.
Unfortunately, we don't have as much experience as we'd like now, so we'll bring in a new person and we'll see who comes to the top for possibly a shift supervisor role, or we'll see.
Wonderful.
Okay, next you have some, you want to talk about some radio
Yeah,
communication devices?
Recording, the first thing is the recording data logger. It's what records the phone calls and all the radio traffic in our 911 center. There's a quote from a company called Nelson Systems out of Springfield, Illinois, that I've been working with since last June. We had an in-person meeting with them. The National NENA organization conference in Louisville, and have continued some phone calls and emails and in-person visit, kind of honing the quote and deciding on what the best piece, how to best equip this piece of equipment. I believe that the quote is the most frugal that we are able to accomplish. We had some discussion with Greg about the how much we were spending, how it needed to be done, what we could do within the county's local purchase rules that exist. I believe the total purchase amount for goods to be under $25,000 at $22,508.40. There are multiple reasons why I would select this as my vendor of choice.
Can you, I think I may have missed the first sentence of what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about right now.
The data recorder.
So the data recorder is something different from what you have on your ARC
It is.
list. Okay,
It is.
so I wanted, so we're doing the
Yep.
data recorder, and then we're gonna probably go through this list of other items.
Yeah, I think the data recorder is the easiest, unfortunately. It's
Very
the
nice.
easiest of all this,
Okay,
because it's the
I'm with you.
smallest.
Okay, so what you're, to summarize, you have a quote from this company.
Mhm.
You think it's within our $25,000 of our local purchasing agreement, so you can purchase it with,
Well, I'll have to solve the funding
Right.
work with the council as part of the build out of the new center. I don't know where the money's coming from yet, but we'll work on that next. But I would approve the purchase of the equipment. We would not take the old data logger with us. The contract for that logger expires. Expired in January. And that vendor has very poorly served us at 911. They may serve other county offices, but they do not serve a 24/7 operation well. Nelson Systems and the Eventide Systems are the number 2 company in Indiana. And I would say probably in the general Midwest area. They're, so far, they look like the company to go with. I have visited with Spencer County, who recently purchased from the same vendor, same salesman. I like their equipment. I like what it can do for our center. I think it's actually a little cheaper than what I expected. We paid almost $30,000 in 2019 for services and prepaid maintenance. I figured with 5 years of inflation, it would be far more expensive than this. So I was pleasantly surprised. I was estimating originally it was going to be about $50,000. But I'm happy with the prospect of it. It allows us to modernize the recording portion and kind of expand some of our capabilities.
so what are you here to ask us today?
So I ask permission.
Sorry, I was
Go ahead.
finding my email on this topic. That's what I was trying to do.
Here to ask permission to move forward with the purchase of the Nelson Systems sold Eventide data recorder. Purchase of the goods amount of $22,508.40.
Say that again?
The dollar amount, $22,508.40.
So Mr. Schneider, had he been budgeted for this amount, he could buy that in the current purchasing?
Good, yes. So, the state statute has, if you're under $50,000 for a purchase of anything, it's the county, as the purchasing entity, has the right to set up its purchasing rules for small purchases. Our county rule currently says that if it's under a $25,000 threshold, then it need to be bid quoted or anything else. If it's above $25,000, then the agent needs to come to the Board of Commissioners to seek approval on how to proceed.
If it's above, you said?
It's above 25,000, yes.
So if he had the money, he would be doing us a courtesy right now by just mentioning.
Correct. So this is also, I think this, what was the total price there? Mr. Wilson?
22,508
That is correct. And then there's also a, did you address the service agreement yet?
No, so we need to, further than that, we need to talk about a service agreement. The purchase of the system itself comes with a 1-year included maintenance and service, 24/7, 365. I would like, there is a discount, and I believe it to be the best interest of the center to purchase 2 years of prepaid maintenance, essentially to give us a total of 3 years for the system. One that it comes with, and then 2 years on top of that. That is services only, and for my
Correct. So
communication with Greg.
this is kind of unique because we have a product that we're purchasing, all right, which has a certain set of rules, and services, which has a separate set of rules. Services, typically, you can go out and obtain those and procure those on your own as well. When they're put together like this, we're not trying to divide them to avoid any sort of quoting process, but it is a bit of a package deal because we're getting, what's our discount, I believe, 28%.
28% on the goods,
I
substantial.
Right. I feel comfortable in what Stuart's coming here with on a couple of fronts. One is, if it was a package deal, it's a significant discount, which would fall under this special purchasing rules, where you could dispense with the bidding and quoting. Also, the product itself is under that amount. So again, I think he's here just to make sure the board's aware of the process we're using, and they get the blessing to proceed with it.
Okay, anybody, did you have a comment?
No. Thanks for explaining that.
I'll say the same thing with this one as the other items we're gonna look at. I think that Mr. Wilson puts a lot of thought, consideration, and heart into being more so than many, but I appreciate it, of being cost conscious. And these are all needed pieces of equipment. We want to have, when something goes down, we want to have, for me personally, I think every other person in the community, when it goes down, you want to have the best 911 equipment and people behind it. This data logger is important. I would agree with his position that we should make the purchase and the 2 additional years of service. I think there was an option to have longer amounts of service, and that's, for 2 years, it almost makes me uncomfortable because if they're terrible in year 2, if you're stuck with them for another year. But this, so we didn't want to go any further on this, so we're going to do this is the best middle ground. That's my position on it.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
So again, I guess we're pending funding like
Solutions.
usual, but you have our consensus to move forward with it.
That takes us to a far larger amounts.
Do a bid opening.
9 o'clock.
I told you I would gladly stand by while.
Ambulance bid openings, thank you. I
Kicking out,
appreciate
I'll be
you
right
bringing
back.
up on that. Morning, Mr. Young. Morning. Do I remind us what we're doing this morning?
So we're opening a bid for a ambulance. I just received one bid.
They were directed to your office, correct?
Yes.
So Sandy, you would have.
Yeah, because I didn't have any, I called him Friday.
Okay, very good.
Do we have a single bid for the ambulance that we put out a notice for?
That is correct. We received one bid packet from American Response Vehicles, ARV. This is for a
2024 Tomahawk Type 1 custom ambulance, Ford F-550 4x4 diesel. There is a discount of $5,400, a total price of $376,582.56.
Can you say that one more time?
Sure can. 376,582.56. To be a loan build date. Bid bonds in place. The non-collusion affidavits there this time. So, and they flagged it all for us this year too.
We are putting a new box on this one, is that correct?
No,
This is the-
this is the new one that we wouldn't receive until late 2025.
Okay.
So we've got one that we're, a new one that should be delivered end of this year, first of next year. And then we've got the remount that's gonna be sometime next year. And this was for 2025.
This is a delivery of anywhere from 2 to 2.5 years from confirmation.
Isn't this the one we just did an additional for 350,000? So it's higher.
So we're over the.
So your estimate, pre-bid estimate was 325-ish?
Yeah, last year was 318, 320, I think was what the bid was last year. So,
So do you think they're packing their price because we're so far ahead? Or do you have any thoughts on this bid as we received it?
I don't know, I mean, everything's, in the healthcare arena, everything's skyrocketing right now.
They had a 2-year build up, so they built their own escalation into the quote. Maybe.
So would you like to take this under advisement, review their bid, or do we need to?
I think I would say we would take it under advisement, but you may have knowing the funding
We have
amount,
to add the money.
you're gonna have to get additional money. If that's the right way to go.
How long do we have to accept this?
Typically it's 30 days.
So
When's council meet again? And I guess you
Go
remember
to advertise
what we
this
had in
week.
here as far as when it had to be accepted.
Do not.
So I think 30, but again, we need to confirm that, of course.
were we expecting other bids, or were we expecting that this would be the only bid we would get?
That's the bid we got last time as well. I mean, we put it and advertised it.
So they're just very limited people that put these together?
I don't know the other company that we did the remount bid with, or the remount with, I don't know that they build new. So. I think there's only one amount, unfortunately.
There's no bid may be withdrawn after the opening of the bids for a period of 60 days after the scheduled time for opening the bids.
So does that mean we're good for 60 days?
I would shoot more for the 30 if we can get can you get one done?
I'll we go to advertise this week and it's for the next meeting.
Still think it's the best path forward to get one ordered if we see that they're this far out. So I say we just take it under advisement and let the council, let it get advertised, go to the council, and we'll see where it goes from there, and we'll have another meeting.
Right, we could potentially even, you need to look at it regardless of the quote to make sure it's got the right dimensions and everything's appropriate. We could look at it at our next meeting and make sure we're on the right path.
Is this something that you'd be able to negotiate with them and try to get below our threshold, or?
I can try and see. There's no
I
harm,
mean, if they're the only bidder.
no harm in asking.
That you can, the option there would be the board would reject it and then authorize him to negotiate with the contractor director, as we only received one bid.
I'd say review it, do the best you can with it, and we'll talk to you again in 2 weeks.
Great.
Does that sound fair to the board?
Yep.
Is that okay with you, Jim?
Thank you.
So we put him down at the next meeting.
We won't have funding by then.
Right, but he'll probably have a better idea if he was able to get any,
I think so.
better pricing or the story of the bid. It's on a bigger board.
Yeah, she was last.
I hate this
I'm just curious if it's gonna be on that.
And with an ambulance, I don't know if you can go through that. I guess we can downgrade this one.
One of the companies before has sent in bids for ambulance.
Maybe not.
Right, so this one, we got one, last time we bid for one, we got one last time.
So we
Storage,
couldn't reach out to the previous in any way.
no, not if you
That
have
would benefit us at all.
if you have a bid and they don't go in, you can't then shop it and say, well, we got 376 to your company, do less than that, that wouldn't be an ethical move. Because everyone had a chance, but I would think that if the prices keep going up and they have a competitor that says, wow, we could really make some money getting right underneath that, I think that would help in the future. So if we're potentially overpaying here, if we are, the competitors would see that as that they have an advantage. All right, well, thank you.
We're overpaying, just waiting car right now.
Great.
You wouldn't think the country as a whole would need any more ambulances now than they did any other time in the history. So I don't know why there would be a 2-year.
A lot of money going into the systems.
Right.
Some places that maybe wouldn't have upgraded.
Sure.
So that, created an additional demand.
We have to have everybody spend down and then.
I know they have a backlog, that's what they're trying to get, the backlog of. And I don't think they're getting chassis like he told me like they had thought they were going to. So that's making a difference as well.
So those chassis may be being built for personal vehicles that are commercial. Yeah, there's a lot of factors. Okay, we have a lot of other business here, so let's, come on up, Mr. Wilson, please. Let's,
So, totally separate, the equipment purchasing situation, being the incredibly complex quoting from plan that was presented by Advanced Radio Communications. Broken up in the email that I think all of you have. Our consultant, Ritter Strategic Services, is working on step one of that now, drafting a RFP that would include the first item on that. Originally, I think we were hopeful to have it ready to present to you on the second, or the next commissioners meeting. I don't know that we'll make that deadline. I think more likely it'll be the first one in May that will present you with that RFP to get that bid process started. The rest of it is a step-by-step I've laid out as best as I am able to, an incredibly complex solution to the move of the 911 center to the new building. I believe the majority of that work outside of that first step falls under the same statutes for special purchasing rules for the reasons that I laid out in the email. I understand I'm at your mercy on a lot of that, and I really don't know what else to do other than to present you with the facts that I have. That in 2 years of working with that vendor to learn how our system exists and the engineering and the complexity of it, I believe that is the best way forward, is maintaining that relationship, continuing under existing maintenance, and for everything except for the first part. I would expect that he would also be a bidder on that first section when we do the RFP, but in the interest of being compliant with the purchasing rules, I believe that is a situation that we do need to have an RFP for that segment of work.
I agree with what you said there, and I do have a couple questions on the items in here. For item number 3, the fiber equipment, it says the fiber equipment will transmit radio communications from the workstations in the center to the actual two-way radio communication equipment in a small building at the base of the tower.
Yes,
So are you talking, in this case, you're talking about the tower in the rear of the building, the
Yes.
the tall tower?
yes.
And then there's going to be an additional tower,
Small tower,
smaller
front
tower in
side
front of the building
for EMA, yeah.
for EMA. And so you're not able to do anything with that one.
No,
So
that's,
you're gonna have to go a good distance.
yes.
So it's called fiber equipment, but it's wireless?
No, it's an actual fiber optic network that would be created and built. It's too far to use conventional wired communications. It has to be fiber for the reliability.
So when it says, it's transmitting radio communications,
It is.
you have a radio communication that you're making,
Yes.
somebody's saying something. The machine will convert that to a digital format, it'll go
Yep.
through the fiber, go into the tower, and then from there it'll go where it needs to go.
Yep.
Okay, so when you said it was radio communication, I was thinking,
Yeah.
why do you need fiber to do radio? But there's a couple conversions happening.
There's some conversions of analog signal to digital signal, and we are trying to go as far advanced as we are able to, because that is the pathway that we will end up at. And the more analog equipment that we can leave behind, the better off we are. We are not gonna, 20 years from now, we will not have any analog equipment. It will all be gone. So we need to do it now. It's incredibly expensive, but it's cheapest to do it now than it would be to try to do it in 5 years or 10 years. That site there's a lot of construction to occur up there. We need to do this work now. It will be way harder to accommodate later. But we're not even started on that portion, phase 3, what I would call phase 3 portion.
Item number 5, in essence, it says it's antenna equipment and labor at the jail new dispatch center.
Yes.
So in simple terms, we have a number of towers already. This is another tower.
Yeah.
We're increasing the size of the network. We're having more
We have
towers.
towers, St. Charles Street next to the center, Greener Road, Schnellville Road, those two are leased. JFS Milling, Hayesville, St. Henry Water Corporation. So essentially, we'll add a 7th tower to the network of sites. The majority of those communications will be sent by microwave link to the St. Charles Tower, so we don't have to upend our entire network, bring a consultant in, make a new plan, engineer different solutions, run into problems that we don't even know may exist. I believe this is the most cost-effective solution. I believe it's the most reliable solution. I am putting a lot of faith in this vendor that they're not leading us astray, and I do believe that that is the case. I believe this vendor is very trustworthy. He's been a good partner for the county for, over 30 years. I think I've held him to a high standard. I made him take me on a tour of the tower site so I could see the equipment myself. I've educated myself over the last few years as well as him. We really have a lot of operational knowledge. There may be other solutions that would be unknowns, but the starting point for those would be to hire a consultant and bring in to evaluate where we're at. The last time we brought a consultant in, we paid that consultant $50,000, and the county purchased an $800,000 radio network. So I don't think it's a good idea to pay a consultant. That was 2016. So if we pay a consultant today that's for the same level of work, we're probably looking at $75,000. And then we're going to buy a $1.5 million radio network upon that consultant's recommendation. And I think this solution, as expensive as it is, I don't want to downplay that. There's no easy way for us to buy a $7,000 microwave antenna. It's just incredibly expensive equipment. But I do believe this is the most cost effective. And operationally, I believe this is a way for us to facilitate this move with hopefully near zero downtime for our communications.
Did Mr. Ritter look at this? Does he have any expertise in this area?
He has a guy for this area that we would have to pay for a consultant. So he is not the guy. He is not a radio consultant. He has a guy for that because there's always a guy.
There's always a guy.
Always a guy.
The only part of this that I, excuse me, that I found But one part, I guess, that seemed expensive with the $9,800 the tower services, but I guess if there's not too many people to do that work either.
No, he contracts that out actually to a third party. He doesn't physically go and climb towers. He has guys for that. And the price is the price. I think that is gonna be the price no matter who. There's only so many tower climbers. We did build into that though, like the last section talks about kind of cleaning up the St. Charles Tower while they're up there. I disagree with the previous decisions that were made about the management of that tower. I think it's time to get that right. I don't know what, I could get more specific about specifically what tower services are included for each amount, but it needs to be done. He's budgeted that amount. I'm certain he can get it done for that amount. I don't think he's profiting off of that section. He's just simply contracting it out, passing the cost along.
So as I said with the data logger, I think everything on there was well thought out and necessary to have the best that we can have. In a lot of areas, I don't like the spending. When it comes to 911 communications and public safety, I'm a little better looking at it. So I would be okay with Mr. Stewart moving forward to the council to see if find a funding solution for these items.
Yeah, I would agree.
Any other comments?
So are you seeking authority to go forward pending the, or are you just giving us a lay of the land first? Just so we make the right minutes and findings on our end.
I would like to go forward on everything except for that first part.
The RFP.
Where we're gonna have an RFP, I presume, we'll present that separately, and the bid can continue separately, but I believe at this point, those sections can kind of diverge, and our vendor can begin facilitating all those other solutions. There will be equipment to be bought. A lot of this equipment does have very long lead time. I know we're talking about the end of the year. That is gonna be here before we know it. If we don't have this purchases in place by June, we are not gonna have radios at our new center. So it is not crunch time yet, but we need to get going.
So with that, the only, Mr. Wilson pointed out the special purchases, and I know I addressed it on the last presentation too, but the purchasing agent, that being the board here, can make a special purchase when the compatibility of equipment, accessories, or replacement parts is a substantial consideration of the purchase, and only one source meets the using agency's reasonable requirements. I think that's what he's setting forth here, that the existing equipment they have on board for compatibility reasons, that's why he's looking to go this direction as opposed to an RFP for those items. Does that sound?
Yes, that's a good summarization of where we're at.
And then we'd be peeling off the larger item and doing an RFP for that because it doesn't fall under the special purchasing rules.
Yeah, I think if we had to, we could facilitate any vendor with any manufacturer of equipment. I definitely have some preferences that I would talk about during the bid process after we get those bids back. But for now, I think that's enough work on this portion.
Okay, so I'll move that we give our consent to Mr. Wilson to move forward with the special purchases and the development of the RFP for the radio console replacement pending the funding of the county council.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. The motion carries.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Sandy, you want to put me on the council agenda for the next week? Okay, wonderful.
Are you the Trubisky's? Well, we've got one person in front of you. I just wanted to make sure that that's who you were.
Yes.
And this one should be pretty short. So I just wanted to recognize that you're here and we'll take care of this next item pretty quickly. Okay, so this is for a clinical education agreement with USI and Community Corrections. Allison Neal is here.
Hello. I emailed this to you guys as well.
Thank you.
Do you want this? Yes. Well, I think I have it.
Yeah, that's what I just saw, so if you
Yeah.
want it, okay, it's the same thing that you emailed.
All right, good morning. So I am here to present to you an agreement between DuBois County Community Corrections and University of Southern Indiana. I originally contacted them to possibly use their students, the LCSW students or social work students, to help with the RISE therapeutic community because we're having trouble with getting clinicians and things to get that going. So we came up with an agreement, or USI sent this agreement to us, sent it to Gray, and he read over it. We changed a few things. So this is going to be for the entire corrections, for them to bring students in to work case management, possibly social work type things, just any part of community corrections. They will be overseen by myself, and just bring them in to get some experience, and then maybe to also have them stay in the future. So I'm bringing this here to get this approved, to be able to sign. It would be Wyatt that would be signing it. So I'm just here to get your good graces that this is okay to sign.
Commissioner Stefano, comments?
Sounds like a great program.
In the past, we have had an agreement with USI. It's been years. It's been a couple, whoever the founder of the drug court case manager is, I can't think of his name right now. He was the one who was overseeing them, and so it's been 8 some years since we've had someone come in. So we're getting it updated and going from there. And USI actually has contacted me about a month ago saying, hey, what's going on? We have someone that would be interested in coming and being at the correction center. So they're really waiting on us to get this approved so that they can formally place someone with us in the fall.
Sounds great.
Commissioner Osborne?
I think it's a great plan. Hopefully you get somebody to stick around.
Yeah.
I'll move that we approve allowing Director Madden to sign on behalf of the county the clinical education agreement.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
I figured Chad would like free work. Don't have
We'll
to
take
pay.
it. That's right.
And then I also wanted, because I know you sent an email on Friday at some point, updating about the RISE. Can I take a few moments to do that as well? So right now, Life Springs has a posting for a clinical social worker, LCSW, to be able to come into our RISE therapeutic community. It's been posted for a couple months now, at least a month and a half. They've had one person apply for it. That person isn't quite able to get the credentials that we need now. I think they're on their way to get it, but they're not able to get it now. So I've been in contact with Life Springs again, trying to see what's going on. And what we've come to is we are going to proceed with RISE. We do have a couple contract social workers who are in the works of getting interviewed and all of that to do some work for us contractually. But then we're also wanting to use Life Springs to do during their open intake on Tuesdays. Anything that they can provide there in the building, we want to be able to use it for right now. So if they need any individual therapy sessions, we can send them to Life Springs. We get billed for it, so that we can move forward with RISE. So we're not just staying stagnant on it. They're still going to be having the job opportunity out there for if they find someone to work just specifically RISE in our building, that would be awesome. But for right now, and they're in the process of redoing a contract. So I will bring that contract to you once it is finished, to be able to mimic what we've been talking about going back and forth. So instead of doing a lot of the therapy in-house in corrections, we're going to outsource it to Life Springs because they already have the services. They already have some of the classes that we may be using. So we're going to outsource it, have our people go out there, then come back for our classes within the building. So that's just kind of an update on that. I'm hoping to get it going. It's not a perfect scenario, but it's the scenario that we've we're rising to the challenge, part of my rise, saying, just seems like there's been challenge after challenge, and we've just been trying to find everything that we can to make it not a challenge, so.
I think my one question was, are you going to do it now, or are you going to wait until we move into the facility?
Well, I would like to get started now. Our facilitators, Angie and Darren, we're diving into the curriculum more, getting more familiar with it so that we can get it started as soon as we get contractors in, to be able to help with some of our classes, or, you know, if they're there for one night a week for one-on-one therapy, if it doesn't work with them going to Live Springs for whatever reason. So yeah, we're in the process. I would like to get it started before, just because you never know when construction is officially going to be done. Yes, they've given us a date, but they gave us a date to get into the new jail, and then it kept on getting pushed back.
Is with any participant in RISE, will the judge have to make that determination? So right now, we have nobody in RISE because the judge hasn't sentenced anyone to RISE because, well, RISE isn't available.
Formally exists, yes.
Isn't ready to take anybody.
Yes.
So at some point, you'll say, we're ready. You contact Judge Burkamp or Judge Quinn, whoever is up there at the time, and they can decide to start sending people your way. Okay. So if you were 100% ready today, you have no one to serve.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Allison, when he signs this, I'll need a copy.
Okay. Will everyone need a copy of that once it's signed, or just Sandy? Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Next up, we have Hill Park Estates Covenant Objection, Gerald Terwisky. If you feel better staying seated, you're welcome to do that.
Okay.
That's fine with us.
I'm Gerald, this is my wife Shirley.
Hi, Shirley.
She'll pass you out a thing. So Chad, Nick, and Service, thanks for hear me. I'm here because Larry and Lori Hubbs of 5971 East Hill Park Drive in DuBois live on a lot other than the one I'm talking about. And their grandson lives in a garage building with a bathroom only, picture enclosed, that is not intended for residents. And I talked to Lori about this October the 17th at 22 at her office in DuBois. And her grandson had been living there for months. And she indicated he would move out as soon as he could afford a place of his own. She also said that he could move in with her now because she was aware of the covenants. And I said, well, it's not necessary. He'll move out soon in a reasonable amount of time. So it's April and he's still there. So according to an attorney that I talked to, the courts may waive enforcement of any covenants because of past violations. So I'm here to go on record asking you, the DuBois County Commissioner, who also approved this subdivision and the covenants on March 16, 1992, which I have a copy of the covenants. And they are Hill Park Estates, plat, book 7, page 99. And I'd like for you to send out a notice to owners of lot number 1 stating their violation to my covenants. And thank you for hearing me. So,
Mr. Terwisky, so you live in Hill Park Estates subdivision yourself?
no,
So this building is in Hill Park Estates.
that building is in Hill Park Estates on lot number 1.
Okay, and how does this I don't know much about this, so apologies if I'm not keeping up. How is this adversely affecting you?
Well, because the neighbors are complaining because this guy lives here in an unapproved house, garage, that is supposed to be a 1,300-foot stick-built home. So he's living there in this garage.
Okay.
And the neighbors would like to get him out. So that's why I'm here to request that he move.
Is there a residence? Is there a house on this property? that
No, there's only a garage on this property. Lot
This
number
building.
1.
says This building and that's it?
This
That's
building
what you're-
and that garage building that I showed you a picture of is the only building on this lot, number one. And Larry and Lori live on ahead up on, I don't know what their lot number is, but they live 2 or 3 lots
Oh, wait,
east of this.
Okay,
But they do own this lot right here.
Okay, so Mr. Schneider, are you aware, or do you need to have time to research the enforcement of covenants by the Board of Commissioners, what our authority is and what it isn't?
I will need to research that, because right now I don't know that we would have the authority to do that, but
Who generally would have the authority to enforce a covenant?
it would be the landowners themselves and potentially utilizing the court system, because we don't have a board of planning and zoning here to bring it before. I know we approved the plat back in '94 or whatever it was said, but I would need to do some more digging at this point before I make that my final answer.
So the facts as you've stated them, the person is clearly in violation of the covenants. I mean, if what you were saying is true, I mean, it says clearly that it has to be a certain kind of a home with a certain amount of space, and that no outbuilding shall be erected and used for residential purposes. And this is an outbuilding used for residential purposes,
Right.
possibly.
The building is okay to be there, but you can't live in it. That's my,
Okay, well, I appreciate the information myself. We'll have our county attorney look at it. If we have authority to do something,
okay.
we've had your request and we can consider that. If the auditor will put that on the agenda for the next meeting for us to revisit after our legal counsel will look at it, we'll address it again then.
So if you need me to come back, you'll tell me.
What's your phone number, sir? Or ma'am?
678-2076.
on the front,
Oh, it's right there on there, I'm sorry. It
his
is on
email's
there.
on there as well.
Okay, so, Commissioner Stefano, do you have a comment or question on this?
No, you answered my question.
Okay.
Commissioner Hostetter?
Yeah, I don't have any questions.
I will tell you this, I'm in banking, and I've seen over the last 5 years that people are building this as a residence more often. It doesn't suit what I would want to live in, and to me, it doesn't seem like a home. And this one I don't think was built probably as
No,
being a
this was
home.
built for a garage.
It's built as a
It did
garage.
put a bathroom in it.
So,
So it's hooked to water and sewer,
Mhm.
has a bathroom, but it's not, doesn't meet the 1,300 square feet for a home.
Right.
And it's not insulated or anything, so I don't know why the kids, his grandmother, the grandchild lives in this house. And he told me he's gonna move out. But the big reason is that the neighbors are complaining because he's got a loud truck. It wakes up everybody in the neighborhood, the kids and everybody else.
He's got a dog park tied up outside that barks at all hours of the morning.
So we would like for him to move, and Lori knows that he is going to move someday, so, but I'd like for him to move now. I mean, it's time, he's been there for months. So if you have no other questions, I thank you for your time.
thank you for coming in.
Okay.
I will call you to get you on the next agenda.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Thank you.
See you, Steve. Take care.
Yeah, that's interesting. In the 6 years of whenever we've been on the board, we've never had anybody, something like this brought up that I can remember. And I've never thought about what if, in some subdivisions, if there's a 40 home subdivision, the builder won't build something that isn't compliant. But if it's my house and it's a garage and a family member wants to use it, it's a unique situation. But there are people all over that I've noticed in banking that they want to build all kinds of things to live in.
Well, and chances are this guy made some, in addition and some improvements to the property that can make it into a residence.
And may qualify.
Right.
There's people in our community that live in those buildings that you see on 231 by the CrossFit place. There's people that have converted those into homes.
Small tiny homes,
Right.
considered
I
as
mean, they're
tiny
meant,
homes,
they're meant to be yard barns.
right. But they're calling them tiny houses or tiny homes and stuff now to make it. So when the bank approves,
Some of those are very.
The bank doesn't approve those.
no, but I mean, but when the bank approves like a pole barn house, there are certain regulations that they have to follow.
Sure.
Specs for that particular building or house.
Right, yeah, a certain percentage has to be home versus garage.
Right.
Because sometimes you have a person come in and says they want a 500 square foot home with a 4,000 square foot garage attached to it. And
That's fair.
so whatever, I think
For a guy.
from a banking perspective, what we want to do is make sure
Reverse it.
when that loan goes bad, how bad's our risk? What's our likelihood that we're gonna be able to find someone else that wants that same thing? So a tiny home for a certain person, when they're having good income, but if I've got to resell that, that's gonna be tough.
You put them on RV.
And we can do that too. We've done things where we put people on auto loans for things.
But that was just in New York that they had.
Well, when we did our new subdivision ordinance, we didn't require a home size.
Correct.
So tiny homes are permitted.
We don't have a minimum size of 700 square feet or anything like that. I don't remember that part.
When a developer puts covenants together, who does enforce that? A neighborhood ordinance.
I would think the neighbors.
That could be typically.
Well, generally, the contractor will be self-regulating. They'll say, we're developing this. We said no fewer than 1,250 square feet, so we won't build anything like that. But then going forward, I guess, yeah, it's gonna be neighbors complaining about neighbors and suing them civilly. Is that right, Greg? Would that be a civil issue if you build a garage on your property and you're not supposed to?
Correct.
Yeah. So I would guess that the Board of Commissioners probably doesn't have authority to enforce covenants. That's my guess, but I don't know that for a fact. But in that case, it sounds like we want, it doesn't matter. We'll look at it next time. We'll just leave it there. I don't have a comment. Are you guys doing okay?
Good.
Okay. Next up, we have courthouse security. So this one will take me a little bit to read through this. On the 30th, there was a security meeting. And Judge Verkamp, historically, since he's been judge, has run security meetings from time to time to address things within the courthouse to make sure we're doing things the best we can to keep things safe. The committee, there is a committee required by statute, not by statute, by court rules actually. And some of the issues that were brought up, the assessor in her office would like to have keyless entry into her room, like the other offices are having. The judge suggested, have you been up there to the assessor's office on the 3rd floor either of you recently within the last year?
No.
So what they have is their office stops at a point. They now have, since COVID, they had a table that they put up out in the hallway with a ringer on it. Plexiglass to keep some separation. So currently, if a person wants to come in, you ring that bell, someone from that office comes out and serves you. It doesn't look ideal, it doesn't look great. They're still doing it now. And one of the reasons for that is because their office is stuffed with desks. I guess it's sort of a safety thing. You're keeping someone that potentially could be irate, very mad at you because now my house was $250,000 last year, it's $310 now, and I'm gonna have to pay an extra 20% of my property taxes. And people get angry occasionally, and so I think it's one of those things where it keeps the separation and it keeps, because once somebody is in that office, that's their only ingress and egress is through that front door. There's nowhere. You can go out a window or you can go out the door. They're on the 3rd floor. So I think part of it is a safety concern of allowing people in there. Similar to the auditor, treasurer, and every other office on the 1st floor, people don't get to wander around between the desks. Plus it keeps.
Well, and it's more private and you can get more work done, it's quieter. Nobody's coming in and out and
Distracting.
they're all out the window now, they're all up.
There's a little bit of confidentiality too. They do have things that have social security numbers on them and personally identifying information. So anyway, there one suggestion from the judge was, hey, how about we pull out the front of that office, pull it out 5 feet, and then we put a new wall with a window in it. Several of us went up to the room, and I think that I think Scott and Mike and I reviewed it with Angie, and Scott, I believe, was going to look and see if the front wall was load bearing. He was gonna talk with someone, look at a plan, or maybe did you end up doing that?
We pulled the old plans out and, there's some different construction in that area from originally. There was 2 doors up there. So it's kind of one of these things that the structural support, going to be chips and plaster away and see what's actually there. So we was gonna try to work on that, yeah.
Okay, so we have a few people looking at that, and the idea would be, it's not necessary to pull out the room 4 feet or anything like that. Maybe just cut a window in it and, pass under thing like we have added at the office. So that was one of the things that came out of that. Would anybody on the board have an issue with if that work got done? Because ultimately, if they put a hole in the wall, it's our building, we're supposed to approve any structural changes or anything like that, so that's why I'll bring these up. So I'm not seeing any opposition to that. We talked a little bit about where the cameras are viewing, what they're seeing and what they're not seeing. One of the issues is when you come up the steps by the back recorder's office on the southeast corner of the building. We have a camera that looks at that back door to make sure if anybody comes in or breaks in late at night or whatever, that it's always being recorded. But we're looking to see if there's ways we can move those cameras to make it more efficient, or if we need to add a camera anyway. We're going to look at adding alarms to the north and south doors.
He ordered it.
You already ordered them. So something that will set an alarm off when people go out there. I believe 5 years ago, an employee might go out there occasionally, stick something in the door and make a phone call, or they do something, and that's not allowed. And we don't want people from the public entering and exiting these doors for safety issues. We don't want somebody popping it open and letting somebody in for one, or just for energy efficiency, we don't want those doors open and closing a lot. So we're looking at putting some alarms on them. Right now, there's a sign there that says, don't exit, there's an alarm. There's not an alarm, so people use it anyway. So we're putting an alarm on it. We're gonna start with the cheapest solution to start with and see how that turns out. Okay, so this is a bigger one, I believe. We've had the prosecutor and the judge both mention metal detectors. These have been brought up over the years. I think the last time we brought it up was 2019, and the Board of Commissioners said that it wasn't the right time because for a couple of reasons. We only at that time we've got 2 entrances. We've got a handicap entrance on the west side, and we've got a regular entrance on the east side, and there would be, maybe we could scan everybody that was going in the east side door, but what about all the people on the other side? We didn't have enough manpower, we didn't want to put a bunch of money to place 2 people in the basement, 2 people up here. It just didn't seem functional. Now that we have a ramp, an accessible entrance on the east side, the discussion was locking the basement door and having it for use only by law enforcement. So when law enforcement brings in a person that has to go to court, they come in that way, they take them up the private elevator, and it keeps a little more. That way you don't have people from the public coming in that back door and law enforcement. So would this board have an issue if when the ramp is fully functional and open and has the rails and everything, would the board have an issue with locking that basement door?
No.
And Brent, I wanted to bring you on board to talk about the ADA component of that. One of our other issues as we looked further into this was having a push button to let people get in and out of the east door. I think one of the items I wanted you to look at, and I think Mr. Kleesner was knew about this already, but if we could have it where a single door, preferably the south door of the double doors, if that one only would open, and we were trying to make a determination, should we have a single button that opens both doors, because there's 2 doors, or should we have one to open the exterior door, then once you're in the breezeway, have another one? I think our thought was to have a single one that does both.
Yep.
And then as a person leaves, we'd have to probably put a push button on the wall somewhere.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
if you could maybe, if you could do a couple things.
I've already looked at it, Scott and I already talked, we talked on Thursday last week, Friday last week, we've already talked and looked at it. Yeah, and a single door is plenty, because you have a post in the middle between the two doors.
Right.
So if you open both of them, there's a post in the middle, but it doesn't get you anywhere. So open the south one, it's fine with me, no issue with that one at all. I'd have one single button that opens both doors. Have a time delay, so it opens the first one, then it opens the second one.
Sure.
But that would be fine. I would not have two buttons. Because there's really not enough room for a person in a wheelchair or the handicapped, to go back, hit another button, open that door, that would be a nightmare for them.
You'd have to, just not one in the middle.
Huh?
You wouldn't have one in the middle.
I wouldn't have one.
You'd have one.
You have one inside and outside, yes.
I'm just trying to summarize the minimum things that were asked, and if we have a problem, so I can reiterate them before we make any moves on these. Okay, so ADA door on the east side, lock the basement door, and we wanted to check with the standard, see if the single door would work. We've done that.
Can I make one comment about the basement door?
Please.
So Strassenfest, all the festivals, that Jasper has in the square, you lock that outside door, you're limiting their bathroom, which they always request use of the bathrooms.
So same way there, if it's after hours, we'd lock the interior door.
Right. I was just saying, could we not find a way to lock that interior door, seal that up security wise, to leave access to the bathrooms? Because you're gonna put a lock, and it's gonna be substantially locked, I would assume, on an outer door, correct? I'm just trying to make it easier. I would try to find a way to seal the inside door for security reasons. And
So
not
the
necessarily,
exterior door and that first inside door?
I would just do the inside door. You still kept it locked,
No.
because you're gonna have, the reasons for it, you have a lot of public, I don't know if they don't use it a lot, but you do have Strassenfest and everything like that. You have your walks and all that stuff, you seal it up to, I don't know how hard it is, I don't know the locking situation.
So we can't have it where people can't exit. So if you're working at the records library, you still have to be able to get out of that door, so we would still have to have an emergency push handle of some sort.
Correct.
So it would never really be locked
Correct.
from people inside getting out.
Right, and, because you're doing it where the police cannot get out, or only law enforcement can get in.
That's what they.
But it's
do.
not limiting people from going up through, pushing the door open, letting them in either. You're not really solving anything there either, so
Someone on the inside would have to
let them in.
let someone in, right? So there's cameras on it, we'd have to monitor it, but yes, it wouldn't be perfect.
I was just saying, just for common courtesy is what I'm thinking, with the city, with their all, if we can find a way to keep it unlocked, in outside door unlocked.
During the business day.
Yeah. And
I guess
it's
what
your
I-
guys' building, it really is, I'm just throwing out my
That makes sense though, I mean, because
I'm just throwing my 2 cents
a
on
lot of buildings in the square do not have public restrooms.
So what I brought up years ago was I wanted there to be a ramp on the front and I wanted a bathroom on the first floor. So we got the ramp. If we had a bathroom on the first floor, that would
That would help out.
probably take care of that need for the basement. Because people could come in and use the restroom.
And it's kind of nice that you can go in and use the restroom there and not have to go into the building.
Yes.
You're not in the work.
I get the security part, I truly do, I truly do. I just say it's a common courtesy, that type of thing.
Ideally, I think there should be a public restroom somewhere on the square. But I don't think that's necessarily.
It's not necessarily our responsibility, I agree with that completely. Just right now, though, that is the only one.
Right.
I agree with you, that is,
Obviously,
it shouldn't be our responsibility, I agree with
It's
that.
over here on City Hall's parking lot where they have the brick kind of walkway, should be a men's and women's restroom.
Right.
Open to the public, it's a separate building, so if anything happens there, it doesn't affect, whereas something happening in the.
Yeah, and I agree completely, I do completely agree with that. But right now it
it's
is.
the only option for a lot of people.
I'm just trying to think of how this would work logistically, because what you're saying, Now somebody can still push the door open and let people in. And even if you move it one more door inside, you're still gonna be able to let somebody push the door and let somebody in.
I just don't think I agree with that. I agree with what you're saying.
Door too, to where it only works if you swipe in or out.
Yeah.
And make employees swipe out just like they swiped in.
I mean, if you're inside the building, you need to use that restroom,
You'd swipe out. So that, if it was me, I swipe my card, door opens, I go use the restroom, it was me that went out that door.
so you had, one of the problems with that is you're gonna, let's say you have 3 members of the public doing genealogy search in the basement records library.
You use the restroom.
And no, not even that, and you have the records librarian there, there's an active shooter, everyone needs to be able to get out.
And they can't. I'm not saying the door would be locked, I'm saying it would be alarmed.
Oh, okay.
So if they just run out the door, it's gonna set off the alarm.
But then that's asking a lot. I think that gets complicated real quick. I agree with that.
Okay.
I do agree with that, because you're gonna forget, you're gonna just walk out, I mean, it's the first couple months, you're gonna alarm going off all the time.
Right.
In
Like I said, it's
principle,
not a good situation. I'm just saying, you're the only public restroom on the whole square, you're closing it. That's the only thing that I see going on there.
in my experience, probably of being in that building for 8 years, you get a few people a day. When you're not a
It's not much. It's not much. I agree with that. That's what I say. It's not going to be the end of the world. That's just the only thing I'm saying right now.
So, in principle, we're okay with having a single entryway to the main part of the building as our general ingress and egress. I mean, right, so that'll be, and then we'll work out the logistics of some of these issues to determine if it's gonna be the front door or the exterior door or the first interior door. We're okay with this in principle, that everyone that comes into the courthouse will be coming in this door, and the next part of it would be that they're getting, the sheriff is ultimately responsible for the security of the courthouse, but I think the goal would be to put a metal detector at the door with someone, with Tom or somebody else, searching people as they came through.
Okay.
That's
Sorry, I didn't want me to wreck that whole side. I just
That's
wanted
okay.
to give it.
But I'm trying to
Good
make sure
point,
that
Rick.
we're gonna be if there's any of this that we're not comfortable with, so I can bring it back to the committee and say, we're good with these two, and somebody had a problem with this. So I'm not seeing any problems from either of you right now. Okay. So our issues so far, we're looking at cutting a window into the assessor's space to improve that area, locking the basement door, adding a handicap push button of some sort to the east side of the building. The last thing here, this is for the judge. He feels his office is not secure. And if you're familiar with how his office works, here's how you would get to his office, or both court offices. Currently, you go in the east door, take the steps up to the second floor, there are double doors. Come to the courtrooms on both sides, there's double doors in front of you, you go through the double doors, and you can get to the superior and circuit courts. Right now, there's a stop sign, and some verbiage on there that says, don't come through here unless you have a certain kind of business. If you need back here, call this phone number. Nobody calls that phone number, they don't read it, they push it, they go through. So the security between the public and that office and the judge is a half door. What do they call it? Anyway, that.
Yeah. Touch door.
Touch door, so it's got a bottom. And so the person can come in that way. In front of the treasurer's office, there's a thing that also says court business only, and you can reach through and hit this little gate and walk yourself up that way. Trying to think of or the other one was you could go up to the third floor, walk around and come down the steps. So you could go up to the third floor, walk all the way across the building, take the steps back, and then you'd be right in front of it. So he was wanting to do a couple things. On the third floor, lock a door that allows people to come in that way. On the second floor, lock those doors and have a telephone there or some kind of a communication device. So if you need to get back to his office, you call. Your only option is to hit this button and have somebody come get you. and improve the gate by the treasurer's office. So right now, we went and looked at it again, and that's how I always got it there. You reach your hand over, hit the button, and then you go up. And so we would put a plexiglass or something dark so people can't see it, and you just can't really get to it. So you can leave, if you're on the second floor and you need to get out, you can do that. And then put a badge or something to get up. So those are some of the options that are some of the things that they talked about. So several years ago, we addressed this again, and I think I was opposed to it because sometimes the public needs to talk to people in the court, or need to talk to those people. As the treasurer, we had, I lost my mobile home title. Okay, to get a new mobile home title, you fill out this document, the court has to sign off on it. So I had to take people up there pretty regularly. I think there was some other stuff that the public had to meet with them. Since that time, whatever those things are that the public has to come to them for, the clerk is doing one of those actions, whatever. The main one where people have to come see them is being taken care of by the clerk now. So there's almost no reason for somebody to come up there. And if they do have a reason to see them, they can call to get buzzed in or something. So I don't think that is, nothing that we talked about I felt was unreasonable. So anything on those judge suggestions that didn't sit well with you? Locking the double doors, improving the gate by the treasurer, and locking a door on the third floor?
I'm okay with it.
Okay, so what we would do too is.
First and third floor locked doors, let's go allow people to get out.
So it would be, so the door on the third floor, it's a wood door, it has a wood mesh thing on it, where a window would normally be on it like this, where the window is wood.
Right. Like the glass is missing and it's just a wood slat, checkerboard type deal.
So what we talked about was, it's like a lattice or something. If there's a fire or an alarm goes off, you can have Astro can set it up where it opens the door. Okay. Like if there's a magnet, but again, is there gonna be a situation where there's an active shooter and there's not a fire, maybe not an alarm, is somebody gonna be stuck? Whatever it is, we would make sure that it met the codes for people to get in and out. I don't know what those are. Well, I don't know what that solution is, but
Right, well, because I mean, if there's a fire that's centered on the other side of the building, where the other stairs are, we'd have people trapped on the third floor.
right, I'm always thinking if there's a shooter on that end of the building, we want people to be able to get out the other side.
Right.
You don't want your window in an elevator to be your only option. But again, on this one, as a general rule, we're okay with, or a general principle, we're okay with it, the board, all of these things. Okay. So I don't know how I'll get this in the minutes, other than say, I guess have you been putting it in the minutes, Amy?
I've been trying.
Okay, so how about this? I'll move that we as a board support the following actions. 1, improvements in the assessor's office, including a possible new addition of a window. Locking the basement door to allow limited ingress to the building. And adding a handicap push button to the east door of the courthouse. And improvements to the judicial area of the courthouse, including locking the second floor double doors, improving the gate by the treasurer's office, and the third floor door locked and have a key fob entrance. So I'll move that we are giving approval to do those things, or at least to look at them and find solutions. Anybody have a second on that?
I will second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. So I can.
Yeah, you can.
Do that.
Now, we don't have money for some of this stuff, we have to look at possible funding.
Right. Some of the solutions shouldn't be too costly. For example, if we just locked the basement door and only had key fobs for 10 staff members that could come in and out, 10 jail people maybe, or Scott, people that would have to have access in and out there, that wouldn't be costly. Putting up the metal detector itself wouldn't be costly, we already own it. So some of this stuff is not too costly. What were you saying?
I don't know.
Okay. Okay, so we've talked about courthouse
They're
security.
upstairs in the courtroom.
Oh.
They're stored in the jury room.
Yeah, they're on blood. They're not used.
We've had them for quite a while.
How old are they?
I mean,
Probably a decade at least.
They've been around since I've been a lawyer, I think.
but we got them through
And
grants.
that's a while. It's longer than a decade.
25 years?
20.
No.
20?
It's probably 15 years they've been around at least.
They've been here as long as I've been in government, so yeah, 15 years or so. Okay, but we do have them. Dev House contract, I still don't think, did you get an
I
email?
didn't get anything. Well, I didn't check my emails.
So,
I didn't receive one either.
I called Jenny and see it. Right there.
I don't think it's important. They said that they'll get it to us when they can. So we'll, but anyway, they did make the improvements and I'd be comfortable with approving it once it's in. Okay, my last item I think for the day is all right, the Sheriff's Department. And we received an email last week that there is someone leaving their position with the Sheriff's Department, so they will be opening hiring to refill that position. My suggestion there is going to be similar to what I suggested with 911 personnel, in that at this time we create a new position for the Sheriff's Department. He's asked for 9 people. I think that it would be reasonable I think he's demonstrated a need in some areas, and I think it'd be reasonable to create a position so that if in a similar situation that 911 is, if you have enough qualified people in while you're doing the hiring process, if you have 2 qualified people, at least give them the opportunity to pick up an additional person at this time. I would be in favor of doing any more than that. You can try for that at budget time. It's generally, like the same thing I said at 911, it's not ideal to hire people mid-year and open new positions mid-year, but I think this is in these 2 situations, I think it's worthwhile. I just want to open that up for discussion. Commissioner Ostetter?
I think that's a fair ask. I think we all support adding some new positions up there, so adding 1 right now, way to start.
I think it helps our efficiency. We're already going through the process. Commissioner Stefan?
I support it, whatever we need.
Okay. So again, we're kind of doing this without funding in place, so there may not be funding. We still have to go through advertising. We have to do all of the things that the auditor does. But that being said, I'll move that we create a new sheriff's deputy position and allow that process to begin. And of course, it's pending council funding approval.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries.
Wage would be C-pole something.
Whatever the entry level would be. Then they'll have to come and ask us if they want to change it from that. One further, I guess one other thing, this is a brief one. Mr. Wilson sent us something saying that the week of the April 9th through April 15th, 2023 is National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. And yeah, I just wanted to recognize those people again and the work that they're doing out there. So it's encouraged that if anybody wants to stop out, make a call, send them a cake, whatever, you know.
Anything we want to do?
Give them a card, something, just to say thank you for what you're doing. Next week will be one of the weeks that we recognize the public safety telecommunicators.
And pole 2. Security Center Deputy and pole 2.
That works. Sandy, do you and I need to get together this week? I saw that the SLFRF
due April 30th.
It's due at the end of the month, so do you want to get
This week I'm really kind
next week?
of, maybe,
Yeah, you tell me and I'll make time to come down if you need.
Hope needs to be available too, because she's been working all over that.
Didn't want you to think I wasn't aware it was coming up, and I'm happy to help with that however we can.
Start writing. Start writing.
Start writing, yeah. Okay, do we have anything else, Commissioner Hofstadter?
Just briefly, I did meet with Chelsea Brewer and Purdue Extension, Ryan Craig, and Meredith Bovero. We're at the meeting. We had some discussion just to kind of get the ball rolling, see what kind of options we might have.
For a new location or improvements at the current spot?
We talked about improvements at their current spot. It doesn't sound like that will really be the ultimate option. That'd be Band-Aid fixes. But we did discuss some open positions or open space at some other area buildings. So that'll progress.
Sounds good.
I don't have anything.
Okay. Attorney?
In reviewing our purchasing policy, as we've discussed, I think this morning, and same guy, but two different topics. It might be somewhat out of date. We passed it as a county, I think in mid-90s. At that point, small purchases fell under $25,000. Now it's $50,000. I think I brought this up maybe once before, but kind of let it set to the side. Whether or not the board wants to revisit our purchasing policy, try to get it up to speed with what the state statute has. So again, if it's under $50,000, the board can determine what the policy is going to be. That can be, you just go do it. That can be if it's between this dollar and this dollar, you go do it, and anything else, you gotta invite quotes. You can let it sit as is. It's just, we got a $25,000 figure and we got a $50,000 state statute figure. So we got a gap of 25 to 50 where it says they just have to come here. But it doesn't say what we do when they get here. I'm happy to look at that. Other counties have, a wide array of things. I can put some of those together and send them to you guys to look at. Some say if it's under $500, they go do it, and anything else has to come before the board. I'm happy to explore it, like I said, put some things together. Just don't know what your guys' thoughts are, or if you want to look at other people's things first and then discuss it again at a subsequent meeting. And there may be some legislative changes that we can incorporate into it too, mid-year. That's my topic.
Mr. Stephan, do you have any interest in working with Mr. Schneer on that, reviewing that?
I can.
And then we want to see if it needs to be
Sure.
updated, modified. So that'd be great. I appreciate it.
Okay.
And Mr. Schneer, so you guys can work on that. And if you sent me something on I'd asked about the public safety tax and how that would be implemented. You sent me some information on that. So
You got a lot of stuff.
Well,
I apologize. At least the
there was a lot of pages in the statute I didn't look at, but I did read this thing that you sent me. Could you have a summary for us of what it would take for?
So the board itself it's not a board that meets. The board it's a conglomerate of each individual board whenever they vote, okay? It would take one municipal entity to start the process to seek to implement a tax. If that is passed favorably.
You said an ordinance, it would pass an ordinance?
Correct. Right. And then it's subject to advertisement and other things within that unit as well. But then each subsequent unit in the county has, I believe it's 30 days to do the same thing, mirror it and pass something, or do nothing, and then depends on who all does nothing. It just has to get past the 50% threshold.
21%.
And in Du Bois County, that the three largest percentages are Du Bois County, City of Jasper, and City of Huntingburg. It would take two of those three, I believe, from a math standpoint, to have it implemented.
Just takes a combination of whoever can get to 50.1%.
Correct. We have no super majority, so to speak, in the county.
No one's over that 50.1% threshold. So it would take at least 2 of those 3 large entities to pass it.
And how many?
And regardless
Six.
if the county opted to take no action, or, and this would be the council, to take no action or to deny it, and it's passed by the city of Huntingburg and the city of Jasper, then, you know, everyone gets the revenue from that tax, regardless of the vote. But there are certain timing mechanisms in place, and somebody has to start the process.
So
Or not start the process.
There are public hearings and
Right.
everything, and advertisements that are required.
So is there a public hearing only required for the first ordinance or each subsequent unit?
Each. Probably a question we asked during the tornado part, I can't remember. We were on a Zoom call and the siren started going off. And everyone in the courthouse in the basement, and Sandy's there by all their windows.
So you have 6 units and 4 of them say we're not in
Doesn't
favor
matter.
of it, and 2 of them do, and they're 50.1, it passes.
That's correct.
So what it really would take is 1 unit to get the ball started, the ball rolling, if they felt this was important.
That at least starts conversation, and I can't remember if we discussed it. There are timings, okay, depending on when you get that passed, or when that tax would go into
It has
effect.
to be by Halloween.
I believe it was,
To start January 1.
October 30th to start collecting January 1 of the subsequent year.
Yeah, there's 3 different times.
Correct.
Yeah. So they'll either start collecting this 31st in October, December 31st, or
They
January
can
1st,
collect it, but they wouldn't even distribute it until.
and then, or the next year.
Correct.
So I thought that was important, because the sheriff and some other folks have said, how does this process work? They looked into it, so we've got a little bit of an idea about the process works if a unit wants to get that started. So in our case, it would be the county council, it would
Correct.
be the common council for the city,
Correct. Of each city.
of each city,
And
and
then the
so,
respective town councils. Again, if a town council wanted to start it, though they mathematically aren't going to make it happen,
but they can start the clock on those first 30 days.
I guess one could argue yes. If,
Yeah, they said that.
right, if Town of Holland wants to start it, I don't even know what their percentage is. They don't get anywhere with just one of the other 3 big ones. It'd still need 2 of those.
So, no, I think that's good information. Anybody have a question or comment on that?
Makes sense.
Again,
I always kind of wondered how the process started.
The votes are based on population, and then I have to calculate that out, which I have,
So what are we, with counties 39% or so?
somewhere in there.
We get 39% of the vote.
Right. So whether the council voted it unanimously or in
Doesn't
a
matter.
4-3 decision, we get 39 votes.
Correct.
Because we're not that
Correct. It's the wrong term that I use when I say
Right.
supermajority. So in the larger counties, like in Allen County, where Fort Wayne makes up 70%, theirs is a pro rata
voting
vote.
block or something.
Right, so if we passed it by a vote of 5 to 4, then of my 70%, I only get 5/9 of the 70%. Because otherwise it's just 5 people would dictate the entire tax for the whole county. That's not right.
We don't have that here.
Correct.
Nope, I think that's interesting. And if our council or another council wants to move the ball in that direction, that's gonna happen. I don't have anything else. Auditor? Public comment? Yes, sir.
If I could, Daryl Schmidt, out in, I wanted to make sure while these guys were here, I've been hearing a lot of comments, concerns about, Portersville Road. I know the mine, there's been another land, cave-in, if you will, along, of that last hole. Just some guys, in my day-to-day, doing business and not working, there were some people that made some comments to me that there was another slide off. One guy even made the comment, and I don't know this, and I'm not a structural engineer or anything, he said, it wouldn't surprise me within a year we don't have Portersville Road anymore. Now, that's just an opinion. Have you been out there lately, or?
About 3 weeks ago.
I think it's happened since then.
On the north end of the pit.
Yeah, And I do know there's some people out there, like, you know, some of them that fly helicopters or whatever, I'm sure they do, they're, you know, a lot of people concerned, they get willing to take some pictures if that would help the council or the commissioners or something. So I haven't went out there yet, I heard about that this weekend, and it was raining, if it wouldn't have been rain, I was gonna go past this morning, but I didn't go past this morning because of the rain. So, you know, I don't know if it's a year, if that's the time frame before we lose Portersville Road or what, but that was one comment that somebody made, I haven't seen it. But it's something we really probably need to, I don't know if that has to be a high priority, and I don't know how this goes with earlier in the meeting when we were talking about DNR, you know, and the meetings out there. So, you know, and there was, and obviously if I'm on the council, I'm not about spending money and things of that nature, you know, but some of them are starting to make comments that if we need to get involved fiscally to save a road before it's too late and then try to get reparations whenever, you know, I know this is a whole tough thing with the whole bankruptcy and all that. So I don't have an answer, I just wanted to bring that so you guys knew that. And that ties into what Chad said earlier about with the solar parks and things. I don't think that's the last solar park that we're gonna see in the area. From research I've been doing, it's all, this has nothing to do, and it's my opinion, but solar parks have nothing to do with tax abatements and things that, you know, we're doing individually as a county to encourage whatever. You know, we're not having those debates, but it's all about the grid and the access to the grid. You know, they don't care what we're doing, to try to help incentivize them to get here. That's kind of all irrelevant. They're trying to have access to the grid, and with Petersburg Power Plant shutting down, you know, we're creating transmission grid capacity. We're having grid capacity in this area. And I think in December was the first time a nuclear fusion reaction generated more energy than it consumed. Okay, we don't hear about that on the national news, but from people that I've talked to in university research, you know, and have access and connections to some of our national labs around the country that are government labs, you know, this is a really big deal. So I think there's a play to try to get access to the grid. You know, in 20 years, if solar is obsolete, they still have that connectivity. They own that access to the grid. I don't know if own is the correct word, but they have that connectivity. They have that access to the grid, whether, you know, you set up something the size of this that has nuclear fusion reactions, which is basically regulating the sun, you know, that you need. But I think they need, there's a big part of this whole big equation is irregardless if solar panels become obsolete in the 20, you know, if there's a 20-year life expectancy or 25 on the way I understand the projects that are going in currently, you know, in 25 years, even if that technology is obsolete and those all disappear, they still have that connectivity. So I think that's why that we're seeing, and I don't think this is near the end of people you guys getting requests, you know, for the solar. That was just comments. Now, it just so happens that there's transmission lines that run right through that coal mine, so this could be a unique opportunity where actually, if all the legalities of the bankruptcy and stuff get settled and people have access to that land again, it would sure make sense to me. You know, a lot of times when, you know, if you ask them why they don't go to, you know, coal mine and properties, it's because the cost of running main feed lines, you know, from coal strip pit areas, excavation costs, plus running the connectivity to get to the grid where they can access the grid. You know, so this might be a unique opportunity out there that if that's something that goes through the landowner's favor, that, you know, that could be helpful. Those were just a couple tie-ins I had on that. And then also, you were talking about the internet. Everything is pretty well positive on the, you know, with Orange County and Spectrum, not Spectrum with PSI, I guess, up here. The only thing I did notice on 36th Street, you know, two competitors are on each side of the street there. I'm hoping that is for maybe, you know, transmission lines that they had to do that. But, you know, right now there's two of them there. The only thing where there's been some rubs, I hear from landowners, is, you know, questions on easements and things like that, where they come in and, you know, some of the subcontractors maybe are a little not respectful of landowners' property and things of that nature. But I think everything's getting worked out, and overall, I think it's great. Everybody's happy with that. Final comment on that, I apologize for making this meeting longer. My personal opinion, as far as security on the courthouse, I think that should be number one. I mean, I know it's great and we want to provide restrooms for people, you know, for whatever, different Strassen Fest and thing, but in my opinion, the ultimate number one should be security of employees and the, you know, the taxpayers that are in there. You know, if we're given access to the basement of the facility, you know, there's a lot of, your mind can wonder if, you know, that's a little chink in the armor. It's a place where, you know, bad things can happen if you know, extra entry points or you're getting physical access to the building by someone with bad ideas. Just a thought.
And to that point, with that single point of access, Judge Burkhamp has been around to a lot of those, Mr. Schneider has as well, and a lot of other counties or even smaller than us have single point, and they have, metal detectors, a lot of it, so.
At the entrance, yeah. I mean,
I think it's a no-brainer. I'm proponent of
Spencer's
that all the
cut
way.
down from 4 doors to a single door access with a metal detector. Crawford County has a metal detector, single point access for the public. And they're both much smaller.
I think Perry County might be the only one that's a little different, they're still in the bone age like we are.
They don't have they have a single point entry, but they don't have a metal detector.
So I think these are good things to look at and move forward with.
We have, and I'm just trying to make those comments as we're doing this now, so, you know, we want to look at all the angles and make that security the ultimate number one, because I think it's past time for this to happen.
You don't want to do it after there's been an incident.
Absolutely, that's my thought.
Anybody else in the public? Okay, we'll close the meeting.
All right.